Good evening, everyone. We're calling the meeting to order. I'd ask the clerk to announce the meeting and call the roll.
Roll call. Mugia. Here. Maddox.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Walters. Philbrook.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Holland.
Here. Thank you very much. This evening, the invocation is being given by Sister Therese Bangert of Our Lady in St. Rose Catholic Church. We invite you to stand for the invocation and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we celebrated Dr. King this week, this was a edition of Psalm 15 that came to my email, and I pray it tonight with you. Lord, who can be trusted with power, and who may act in your place? Those with a passion for justice, who speak the truth from their hearts, who have let go of selfish interest and grown beyond their own lives, who see the wretched as their family and the poor as their flesh and blood. They alone are impartial and worthy of the people's trust. Their compassion lights up the whole earth, and their kindness endures forever. And so, God of abundance, I ask that the decisions tonight of this governing body may reflect your compassion and your kindness. And I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sister Therese. I'll ask Ms. Cobbins, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, there is a revision. It's a clerical error. If you look at the consent agenda, item number 5, the reappointment of Marianne Flunder, dates should reflect January 22nd, 2015 through May 30th, 2015.
Okay, so noted. Are we doing this first, or is this later? Okay. Let's set this. That's much better. All right, our first order of business tonight is the consent agenda. Does any member of this commission, staff, or citizen in attendance tonight wish to set aside an item on tonight's consent agenda? We'd invite you to step forward at this time and step your name and address for the record and ask what item you'd like set aside. Any item not set aside will be voted on in a single vote with the consent agenda.
Move to approve all items on consent.
Second.
Let the record show no one is moving forward to remove an item. It is properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Mugia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Aye. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right. That now brings us to the administrator's agenda. Mr. Bach, I'll turn it over to you for presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Last month at the Kansas Association of City Managers Conference, our city was recognized for public improvements for cities over 50,000 in population. The project we're recognized for was the State Avenue Corridor transit improvements that were done along our community. This was a joint project that we did with the Area Transit Association. It cost about $13.5 million. It was done in part with a Tiger grant that we received. Engineering on this project was done by BHC Roads, as well as the construction was done by Mega and Amino Brothers. Many of you are aware of this project. It consisted of shelters, pedestrian improvements, landscaping, streetscaping, and other amenities that make the transit experience more pleasant throughout our community. Our State Avenue riders serves about 2,300 riders per day. At this time, I'd like to recognize Irvin Jackson with our transit department to come up and receive the award, as well as Will Anderson with BHC Roads to receive this plaque. this is presented by the American Council of Engineering Companies. I also would like to recognize Emmerich Cross, who's walking up with the camera, but Emmerich was very key and oversaw the project while he was serving in transit during the time that we were doing this project.
I believe that's the second award we've received each of the last 2 commission meetings, so I look forward to what award we will receive next week.
Oops.
Wow. All right.
Really?
I'm right
As
here,
he has
Mayor.
now introduced himself, we move to Administrator Agenda Number 2, Revised Casino Grant Guidelines. I will now recognize Joe Connor of the Administrator's Office to make presentation. I'll also note this has not gone through the standing committee process. This has been a subcommittee of the commission and then a special session. So we've not had public comment. So if there is someone in attendance tonight who would like to speak on this issue, you'll be able to do that following Mr. Connor's presentation. So Mr. Connor?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. What you have before you tonight is a proposed resolution with an attachment that outlines the 2015 guidelines for the Casino Grant Fund. In part of the description, it talks about the funding priorities, the grant requirements and restrictions, eligibility guidelines, and the selection process and timetable for this year's process. If everything gets approved and goes through, the grants will be available for applications on Monday, February the 9th. I believe this accurately reflects what we've heard through the 3-person committee of commissioners and also through the standing committee process on February 8th. So this would, if this was adopted, this would enact us again for 2015 and get the process started next month. Is there any questions on the documents?
All right. Seeing no questions, I will now open a public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to speak for or against this proposal, you're invited to come forward at this time.
Heidi Holiday, Rosedale Development Association, 1403 Southwest Boulevard. Good evening. We have a letter being passed around, and I'm going to read that letter on behalf of the organizations that have signed it. Dear Commissioners, we, the undersigns, respectfully disagree with the proposal presented at the special session to eliminate the review committee for the Unified Government Hollywood Casino Grant Fund. We respect the Commission's authority to set goals for the fund, including broad geographic reach. However, we believe that an independent review committee maintains a high needed level of ethics and transparency in the process. One of the challenges facing the Commission has been equitable distribution of grant funds throughout the county, and we believe that there are creative solutions to this problem. We are concerned that by passing decision-making power directly to the commissioners, the process will lose the transparency that it has enjoyed, creating the possibility and perception of misuse of power and funds. We recommend that the Commission maintain the independent third-party review board in 2015 and work with the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation or another third party to create a process for 2015 and beyond that appropriates grants according to the fund's goals and maintains the high standard of ethics and transparency for which the unified government has become known. Thank you for your time, and this is signed by a number of nonprofits, and I will read them now. Bethel Neighborhood Center, Bike Walk KC, Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas, Crosslines Community Outreach, Cultivate Kansas City, El Centro Inc., Free Wheels for Kids, KC Healthy Kids, and the Greater Kansas City Food Policy Coalition, the KCK Farmers Market, Kansas City Community Gardens, Rosedale Development Association, Rosedale Farmers Market, Revolve KCK, Shepherd's Center of KCK, and the 8th Street YMCA. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Kelly. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Cultivate Kansas City. Most of you know us. We're an organization that works on to promote local farming and urban food systems.
Address for the record, please.
10024 West 55th Street, Merriam, Kansas 66203. My office is based at 4223 Gibbs Road, 66106. And we have another office in Northeast at 1979 North 2nd Street. Good? Okay. Thank you for listening to my testimony. I want to start by expressing my gratitude to the mayor, to you as commissioners, to the Hollywood Casino and Kansas Entertainment LLC for making the funds available to local nonprofits. This is a pretty extraordinary pool of funds that we have available to our community. It's amazing to have funds that are dedicated to community health improvement through healthy eating and active living. I want to offer my perspective that this pool of money was set up, focused, and is distributed in a way that is pretty extraordinary and that needs to be recognized for the uniqueness, for its uniqueness. The focus, as you all know, emerged out of several years of community engagement and policymaker engagement that resulted in the recommendations for a better future. This fund is set up to add oomph, to add some power to those recommendations. What it does is those funds enable us as nonprofits to go out and to implement the recommendations that came through that extensive process. This is a progressive, forward-thinking, high-impact approach to addressing the community health needs that we all know are crippling Wyandotte County. It's a grant fund that every county in this area should be jealous of. What concerns me about the proposal that is before you is that in seeking to address what may seem to be unequal funding levels across the county, you are going to inadvertently diminish the power of a comprehensive countywide approach. Setting it up as proposed really opens up the potential for the funds to be awarded not on the basis of impact, but on the basis of geographic location. Health issues are not equal across the county. Some areas are more genuinely challenged. The issues around health, whether it's dietary health, physical health, general environmental health, are dealing with issues that are much more intractable and long-term, and that may, in fact, require a higher dollar investment than other sections of the community. Discussing the competing, or not competing, but the different health needs of different neighborhoods across the county is a set of discussions that needs to happen and needs to be done from a high-level perspective of the whole county. The process as it's set up right now with an independent review committee supports that kind of discussion and that kind of collective analysis and decision-making. I'm also concerned about the loss of the independent review committee. As it's set up right now, decision-making occurs when a group of people come together once a year to look at the grant applications and discuss them. The process ensures that they're focused on the goals of the fund. It ensures that they are looking at the capacity of the grant applicants to fulfill those goals. It is, as much as is possible with any group of human beings, a depoliticized process. It would be a shame to lose that objective approach. We, as a community member who's both been a grant maker and a grant applicant, I have tremendous value and respect for the transparency and openness of that process, and I think it is really critical to the success of how we use those funds. I want to say in closing, I appreciate how much you want that pot of money to be responsive to your individual districts and the needs of your districts. I really respect that. We all care very deeply about the health of Wyandotte County, and we know the scale and scope of the issues we're facing down. I want to suggest, though, and request that if you want to change the grant application process, that you take some time to do it, that you do a fuller engagement of stakeholders, and that if you want to make changes, don't implement it for 2015, but look towards 2016, because I think that the concerns you're trying to address are very legitimate and real. I am not as a grant applicant and as a community member, convinced that that's the best way to achieve your goals. Thank you for taking the time for listening to me, and I appreciate the work you all do.
Gil Pentar, 4178 Cambridge, resident, Rosedale. I attended today's Livable Neighborhoods meeting and found out that this item was on the agenda, and I just looked at the agenda verbiage and so forth during the day. And while I salute all of you for getting these grant funds, as a grant fund applier, you know, I apply for as many grants as I can. After I looked through the document, a couple things just struck me. I'm concerned with some of the language that says, and I quote, that the highest consideration of funding will be given to program or providers of projects that accomplish the following, and there's a list of items. The very first item says, leverage additional funds, both private and public. When you, and I'm just getting one piece of that eligibility, when you look at that criteria, I certainly understand that criteria, that you want to build a larger project with these funds. You want to do something on a larger scale if there's other funds available. But sometimes you could have a really great project, whether it's in Rosedale or wherever out in the West, that may not be able to tap into additional funds. And this, and so all I'm pointing out is that the way it's the way the verbiage is outlined right now, it really focuses those monies. And so, like I said, I think if you could spend a little time, whether it's for this 15 review or future reviews, really think about the projects that you're keying in on these grant funds, because I, as president of My Homes Association, may not be able to leverage additional funds. Also, it seems to me, since the adoption of the original resolution, when I go on the website, this is the third revision of that document. It seems like there's been a revision every year. And while certainly we need to brainstorm additional revisions and so forth, it seems like when we get multiple revisions annually that we really need to be taking a really good look at those revisions and ensuring that there is this transparency for everyone throughout the county. It would seem to me that would be a good goal to achieve. And those were just two little comments that I have on the proposal this evening. Again, thank you for all you do. Appreciate having the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would care to speak tonight?
Teresa Clardy, 4042 Coleman Court, Kansas City, Kansas 66102. I am standing as a concerned citizen. I too was at the Livable Neighborhood meeting today and was just concerned that this item has been placed somewhere where there was an opportunity for public comment. So my concern is just that there be light shined upon the whole thing and allow the community to offer comment as to where the funds will go, and that the third party person or persons would be afforded the time to assess the need of the community so that the funds could be utilized in the best manner. I do thank you all for all that you do. Keep up the good work. We're all counting on you. We're all believing in you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Ben Alexander. I think a lot of you know me. Personal address, 645 Split Log, Our Free Wheels for Kids is located at 1403 Southwest Boulevard. We do work across the county. I'd like to echo what Catherine Kelly and Heidi Holliday have said, that we urge you not to change the independent review board process. We've been impressed the last 2 years with how transparent this grant process has been in comparison to other funding opportunities, and I urge you not to change the transparent, open, and remarkably fair process that has been established in 2013 and 2014. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else who cares to come forward? Seeing no one else coming forward, we'll close the public hearing portion of this and turn it over to the commission for conversation. Commissioner Philbrook.
Okay, so I want to thank those that came forward and spoke, because I've heard a lot more than, actually I haven't even really talked to any of you. I've heard more from other folks, and that would like for us to retain the present manner in which we're doing it, at least for another year, to review the possibility of changing it then. My thing with this is exactly what you said. I don't want to split up, and I don't want to figure out what to do with $45,000 by itself, and wonder if in my 8th district I determined that, I don't know, El Centro needs to have the money out of everybody. Okay, well, El Centro deals with people that live in my neighborhood too, but they're not housed there. Okay, and the same for a lot of these other groups, you know, like the one for the kids with bicycles. They deal with kids all over the place and are looking to expand. And there's just so many things that these individual groups touch people throughout the community that I think sometimes we get, I don't know, just focused on our own little area. And don't get me wrong, all of our own little areas need help in a lot of different things. But I'm not ready to move forward to change this myself. There will be a no vote for me, just so you know. And I do like the third party look over at everything. I do like the fact that there's a lot of guidelines to follow for them, and I don't want for the commission to have to get together with a minimum of 4 to 5 people, because anything over that is against the COMA regs, you know, and so, oh, there's only these 5 people that are going to create this thing. I mean, it creates a kind of a faction, and I don't want to see that, because we have all worked really well together, even though right now I don't agree. But that's part of being a commissioner and standing up for what some of your folks say to you. So that's really about it. Thanks.
Commissioner Walters.
Thank you. I want to comment on a couple things I heard, and maybe to repeat some of the conversations that happened in the special sessions that maybe some of the people who commented tonight were not able to see or hear, because this is something that we've talked about for some time. The goal of the revisions was not to overhaul the program. It was only to change the ultimate decision makers. The application process is the same. The vetting by the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation is the same. Then, instead of an independent citizens committee, it will be the Board of Commissioners. There's no reason it shouldn't be any less transparent than it is right now, but it will also be accountable, because commissioners have to stand for election, and the citizens committee does not. There was no big criticism of any of the decisions that the Citizens Committee made. However, as I sat through the deliberations, some things came to me that I thought were opportunities for improvement. One, a big one, was that when the committee reviewed applications, there really wasn't any discussion, significant discussion of the area of the county that the participant practiced or provided those services to. And healthiness is a county-wide problem and requires county-wide solutions. So this, one of the primary thrusts of this modification is to try to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the entire county. Not to say that any commissioner has to try to keep all the money that they have discretion over within their district, and I certainly don't expect to do that myself. One of the comments from staff was that there weren't even any applications from the western half of the county, let alone any actual grant recipients. So we have suggested trying this as an alternative to the previous process. We haven't changed that the applicants have to be 501c3s. So this is not a drastic modification, but it is an attempt to try to tackle this problem on a true county-wide basis rather than without consideration for location. So we've talked about this at special session. I thought we had a general consensus from all commissioners. Perhaps we didn't. But with that, I would like to move for approval of this ordinance change.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I come down here in a pretty good mood tonight, and then I received this letter. The process will lose transparency that we enjoyed, and creating the possibility of perception of misuse of power and funds. I've made no bones about it. I want the fairground to get some of the money, and I want the Piper School District to get some of the money. I haven't hid it from anybody. But District 5 didn't get any money before, and they thought they did because the church that was on Parallel, Ricky Turner's church, they said, well, that's Kane's area, so he gets something. And they're probably, the people out west probably thought, well, we're not going to get it anyway. If we want a healthy community across all four corners, the District 5 pays a boatload of taxes. They're entitled just as much money as any other district. And it's frustrating for me because the folks out there are going, well, how did they get the money and you didn't get any money? So on fair representation across the board and transparency, I've been here 10 years, and there's no doubt in anybody's mind on any project I'm ever working on. I tell you exactly what I'm thinking, exactly how I'm going to do it, and I've told the folks about this. So the transparency is there. And if you haven't seen it, you should have. And I was disappointed in how it was first done, and in my mind, we finally came up with a way that we can distribute the money clear across the county.
Commissioner Walker.
I would agree with what Commissioner Walter said. I have not made any kind of statement about where I want to see the money go. I don't represent a district, I represent the county. In all candor, it's clear that out of the blue this has been stirred up, and I'm disappointed about the way that I think this was stirred up, with the suggestion from people that have called me today that some type of impropriety or political backslapping is at the root of this. You know, my intention initially was to not support this, and I came to the conclusion that I had erred in my perspective because what became clear in talking to some of the, what would you call them, less financially robust 501c3s that exist throughout the county, is that they didn't apply
last year because the nature of the process convinced them that if you were after a $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 grant, the likelihood you were going to get that was virtually non-existent. And I think if you look at the results of where the money was distributed, a good portion of that money ultimately went into projects, worthy projects. The process, the people were great, but I don't intend to give money where the money will be eaten up by administrative cost. Healthy lifestyles. I'd like to see a group that I don't think through the fault of anybody but themselves last year didn't get money for baseball fields for young kids to play on in the summer. I see the Kansas City, Kansas farmers markets on here. They would be a likely beneficiary in my view because of the healthy lifestyle. The idea that only 6 or 7 groups get a big chunk of dough and a portion of that goes to pay the cost of the people who administer it troubled me a great deal. I agree this is every bit as transparent. The decisions will be made publicly. They will be vetted. I am disappointed that groups have taken a stand on this when in fact we have discussed this process at least 2 public meetings that are on YouTube and UGTV. This didn't come out of the blue this morning at Livable Neighborhoods. It came as a gradual process of discussion. And at this point, I have nobody that I have committed any funds to. I won't commit funds unless there's an application. And am I going to encourage groups to apply? Yeah, you bet. You need a $5,000 project in your neighborhood that meets the criteria, then that's more doable for a greater number of beneficiaries than the handful of larger ones doing worthy work, but not necessarily to the exclusion of everybody else that is struggling along. The neighborhood groups that maybe want to add a little part of a trail in the Turner area is one that I am aware of. A baseball field renovation. I mean, there are worthy projects that don't require $80,000 or $100,000, and I will tell you that it is my every intent to look. I am county-wide elected, so anywhere in the county, for you out here and for those that are watching on television, make your application, and everybody on this commission will ultimately vote on approval of these projects. You're going to have to take a stand on them. I don't know how we'll end up voting one by one or in group, or if we want to take one out because I can't support that group because of what they do. But there will be a process in which the public will have all the same. You'll have more involvement in this process than you had with the independent review committee who vetted it, worked it, made honorable recommendation. There wasn't a person on that committee that wasn't an upright, honorable individual. But I didn't see how they vetted them. I heard what they said, but I didn't know what input they did. We're going to have input between ourselves up here for the public to hear as to why we either support or don't support a project. Thank you.
Commissioner Philbrook.
I have an administrative question. So if we end up, instead of giving to 4 or 5 groups, we end up giving to 15 or 20, how much more time and money is that going to cost us to follow this?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm looking at our administrator.
Well,
I'm looking right at Doug.
At me and
No.
I'll have Mr.
Oh, I thought you were going to. Yeah, I thought that was going to come out of your stuff. No, just kidding.
Mr. Connors worked with the Community Foundation on this. I'll have him address that.
Sure. So the first year that we did, there was 13 grants that were awarded. Last year there was 17. So just to give you some perspective on how many that are coming through.
Thank you for getting me in line. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then the Community Foundation will be the ones that will take the 6-month and the annual reports and provide them to us, which then I will provide to you. Just like in the past. As a matter of fact, we posted the annual reports on our website from the first year. The second years I just received, or I'm working on. So, so from that perspective, I mean, you used the numbers of 15 to whatever. That's kind of where we're at now.
Okay, good.
My concern at the standing committee was if we start getting into 30 and 40, and if you want oversight, and if you want site visits, if you want other things to happen with those reports that come in other than just reviewing them and posting them on the website, that's going to be problematic.
Okay, I appreciate that information. Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to speak on this because at first I was not sure how I was going to vote. I was inclined to go along with the recommendation only to see how this was going to work compared to the one other year past that I've seen this function. I see benefits on both. I like the fact that there was a third party, a foundation that oversaw the selection. If the intent or one of the vocalized intent was to make sure that money was given to entities from all of the districts, I think that tends to maybe polarize. I hope it won't have a polarizing effect. That's yet to be seen. On the other side of the coin, as Commissioner Walker said, it may enable smaller entities throughout our district and throughout the community to be encouraged to apply where under the older system they may not have. I don't know how this is going to work out. With that reservation, I will vote for it, but that's how I will be evaluating this. What will happen this time that didn't happen the last time? The one thing that I thought, though, was misplaced with the last one, or the criticism of the last methodology used, meaning the third party, was that people cannot be considered for funds if they don't apply. We do want people to the beneficiaries of these grants to use them to be as beneficial to countywide as possible. Certainly there may be some districts, and the needs vary, who may receive more benefit than another, but that should necessarily be the goal by district. So the complaint cannot be said, well, like they used to say in the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. If you don't apply regardless of what district was from, you can't be considered. I think maybe that was the fatal flaw under the previous system. So with those reservations, I will vote for it this time and keep a critical eye so that I can compare what I think benefited under these two systems by comparison. Thank you.
Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. So this morning I also received a number of phone calls from community groups across the county. I have to tell you, I was pretty angry, hurt, and flat out frustrated that a representative from our mayor's office attended a Livable Neighborhoods meeting and insinuated that this entire commission would be tempted by dirty or corrupt politics. I'm finding it incredibly difficult to respond to that in a professional manner this evening. So I've put my comments in writing to avoid saying anything I'll regret. In addition, as a Democrat in a Democrat county, I thought I might use the words of a mutually respected elected official to get my point across tonight. This week, we heard the State of the Union address by our president. We also have had the good fortune of him visiting our wonderful state today. So I thought it was fitting to let his words speak for me, as my frustration tonight goes well beyond this one hugely disappointing incident or event. I'm hoping these words can repair the damage to this political body. I will modify slightly for a more personal touch. Our president said, "Will we allow ourselves to be sorted into factions and turned against one another, Or will we recapture the sense of common purpose that has always propelled America and Wyandotte County forward? I know how tempting cynicism can be. It plays on the fears of our constituents to imply dirty politics is occurring in Wyandotte County. I share the President's question to all of you on the local level. Will you allow this old school politics and tired thinking to drive every decision in this county? I think we must move beyond our sketchy past here in Wyandotte County. It's a new day. Much progress has been made. You've said yourself, we have a new form of government. Better politics is one where we appeal to each other's basic decency instead of our baseless fears. A better politics is one where we debate without demonizing each other. If we're going to have arguments, let's have arguments. But let's make these debates worthy of this body and worthy of this county. We may have different takes on many things, but let's deal with them in a professional, dignified manner, not with unfounded personal attacks. That's better politics. That's how we start rebuilding trust here in Wyandotte County and throughout the rest of our country. That's how we move our county forward. That's what the people of Wyandotte County deserve, and that's what they should be entitled to. So in the words of President Obama, let's begin a new chapter tonight, and let's start that work right now. With that, I'd like to call for the question.
Well, since my office was brought up, I guess I'll address that. Commissioner, I also heard this morning that a member of my staff had been at Livable Neighborhoods and had raised concern about this process. That was news to me, and what I didn't hear was that any insinuation about corruption or dirty politics being mentioned. Certainly, I don't believe that. I know my staff member doesn't believe that. And if I thought that, I've been involved in all these conversations, and I would have brought that up. I've said from the beginning I have reservations about this. I've never implied that I thought it was dirty politics. And to your point, in terms of building bridges, if I had known you were this upset about this, I would have asked that you give me a call at some other time today so we could talk about it before it being a public issue that I had no idea what you were upset about. So I'm sorry if there was any insinuation from my office in any way about dirty politics or corruption. I don't believe that happened, but I'd be glad to look into that. And certainly I can tell you as honestly as I'm sitting here that that's not been my concern. I will say that my concern, you've heard it twice before, each of the times we've brought this up, I prefer the third-party provision. I did say that I heard a consensus among the commission, and I wasn't willing to stand in its way, and I stand by that today. I've heard people want to try this for a year, see how it works out. We tried the others for 2 other years, and people want to see if this works better. And I've said I have reservations about it, but I think if that's the consensus of the commission, we do what we do. So I just want to publicly apologize if that insinuation was made, and I would just ask you, if you have a concern about me or my office, please give me a call and give me a heads up ahead of time. I don't think we need to air this out in public unless that's your intent tonight. So I'm disappointed that that happened tonight, but it is what it is. It's water under the bridge, and I believe the question has been called. Roll call.
Roll call, Mugia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Bilbrook.
No.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
The vote is 8-1. That motion carries.
All right, we are now adjourned. Commissioner Maddox, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see the light.
Thank you. I'm a little concerned, and I'm also going to do my homework. I know a few people that was at the Livable Neighborhoods meeting, and I'm going to reach out to them. And I really do hope that there was not a person from the mayor's administration that was backslapping commissioners and calling them greedy. I do want to say this, that in the Northeast community for 2 years straight, no 501c3 has received grant money. And I would also like to say this, for any grant funding entity in this room, I'd like for you to see how many grants have been rolled up on the citizens in the Northeast community that have not reached them. We're lacking services, grants are always rolled up, and we don't receive the funding. So I know what it looks like to be on the other side of the coin, where we are not receiving the funding. And I really do hope that people are not going behind the backs of elected officials in the rooms with the people that vote for them and bashing them, and they represent the mayor of this city. Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned as the commissioners. We are now re-adjourned as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. The items before us are on consent.
Move for approval. Second.
If anyone in the audience would like to step forward and remove an item, you may do so at this time. Let the record show I see no one moving to set an item aside. It is properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Mukia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Aye. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
We are adjourned.